In this guide, why generic OAuth clients need the resource server itself to advertise which authorization server to use. How /well-known/OAuth-protected-resource is derived from each protected resource URI. Which metadata fields matter most in practice, from authorization servers and scopes supported to DPoP and mutual TLS flags. And why exact resource validation plus audience-restricted tokens are the two checks that stop impersonation and token redirect attacks. Identity Expert, powering you to be an expert in identity. RFC 8414 solved discovery for authorization servers, but it left one missing link. A generic client can parse authorization server metadata once it already knows which issuer to query. It still does not know which issuer belongs to the API it is calling. Before RFC 9728, that mapping usually lived in vendor docs, out-of-band setup guides, or hard-coded client configuration. And the client still had to guess which scopes the API uses, whether the token must go in the authorization header, whether DPoP or mutual TLS is required, and which bearer methods are acceptable. RFC 9728 fixes that with a resource-specific metadata document. The protected resource publishes a well-known JSON file derived from its own URI. The client can fetch it directly or learn its URL from a WWW-Authenticate challenge. That document can list authorization servers, supported scopes, bearer token presentation methods, DPoP and mTLS requirements, and even signed metadata. In other words, RFC 9728 gives the API its own machine-readable operating manual. It is the missing link between RFC 8414 authorization server metadata and RFC 8707 resource-bound tokens. Imagine a distribution warehouse with dozens of loading docks. A courier arrives with a package, but there is no sign telling them which badge office authorizes this dock, which deliveries are accepted here, or whether packages must be handed over at the front desk or sealed in a cage. Every courier company would need a private PDF and a human contact just to figure out how to deliver one box. Now imagine every dock has a standardized placard. Badge Office X issues passes for this dock. Accepted delivery types are Y and Z sealed cages required. Present the pass at this counter only. That placard is protected resource metadata. The dock is the API. The badge office is the authorization server. The placard does not grant access by itself. It tells the courier how to get the right credential and how to present it safely. RFC 9728 standardizes that placards so generic OAuth clients can work without prior vendor-specific wiring. A protected resource hides 4 separate discovery problems. First, issuer discovery. RFC 8414 only helps after the client already knows which authorization server issuer to query. RFC 9728 lets the resource publish that mapping itself through authorization servers. Second, scope discovery. Even careful clients cannot request least privilege access if they do not know which scope strings this API recognizes. Scope supported makes that explicit, while still allowing the resource to hide scopes it chooses not to advertise. Third, token presentation and binding. Some resources accept bearer tokens in the header only. Others might advertise body or query transport DPoP proof algorithms or whether mutual TLS-bound tokens are required. Without metadata, those rules are tribal knowledge. Fourth, authenticity. If an attacker can trick a client into using fake metadata, the client might request a valid token from the wrong place or present a token to the wrong server. That is why RFC 9728 requires exact resource matching on the returned metadata and HTTPS TLS validation. The goal is not more JSON. The goal is replacing hidden coupling with verifiable protocol data. The flow is straightforward. Step 1. The client calls the API or otherwise learns the resource URI. If it does not yet have a token, the resource may return HTTP 401 with a WWW-Authenticate challenge containing the resource metadata URL. Step 2. The client fetches the protected resource metadata from the well-known location derived from that resource URI, usually /well-known/OAuth-protected-resource inserted between the host and path. If the resource URI has a path, the well-known suffix goes before that path so multiple resources can coexist on one host. Step 3. The client validates the metadata. The returned resource value has to exactly match the resource identifier the client is using. If the URL came from a resource metadata challenge, the resource value must also match the URL used for the original API request. Step 4. From authorization servers, the client learns which issuer or issuers can mint tokens for this resource, then follows RFC 8414 to fetch authorization server metadata. After that, ordinary OAuth continues. Request the right scopes, ideally include RFC 8707 resource indicators, obtain a token, and present it using the methods and binding rules the resource advertised. On the wire, there are 3 artifacts to remember. First, the challenge. The resource can send WWW-Authenticate bearer resource metadata equals the well-known protected resource metadata URL. That is the API telling the client where its operating manual lives. Second, the metadata document itself. At minimum, it contains resource, the canonical identifier of the API. In practice, the most useful fields are authorization servers, scope supported, bearer method supported, TLS client certificate bound access tokens, DPoP signing alg values supported, and DPoP bound access tokens required. Third, the follow-on OAuth request. Once the client knows the right authorization server, it should still request an audience-restricted token for this resource using RFC 8707. RFC 9728 tells you which authorization server and token rules belong to the API. RFC 8707 ensures the token minted by that server cannot be replayed at some other API. The important mental model is that protected resource metadata does not replace authorization server metadata or resource indicators. It bridges into them. 3 threat classes matter most. Threat 1 is resource impersonation. An attacker publishes fake metadata claiming to represent a legitimate API or intercepts the metadata request in transit. The mitigations are strict TLS certificate validation, exact string comparison on the returned resource value, and signature validation when signed metadata is used. Threat 2 is token redirect. A malicious or compromised resource can trick a client into obtaining a broad token and then replay it at another resource server that trusts the same issuer. RFC 9728 explicitly recommends audience-restricted access tokens from RFC 8707 as the defense, with the legitimate resource validating audience on every call. Threat 3 is SSRF and bad issuer chasing. Because the client is dynamically following URLs and issuer identifiers it did not know in advance, a malicious resource can try to steer it toward internal IP ranges or attacker-controlled authorization servers. The client needs ordinary SSRF defenses, HTTPS-only fetching, and issuer validation when it loads authorization server metadata under RFC 8414. The big lesson is that metadata discovery makes OAuth more generic, not magically safer. The safety comes from verifying every discovered value before acting on it. RFC 9728 slots into an OAuth discovery chain that finally feels complete. RFC 8414, published in 2018, lets a client discover an authorization server's endpoints and capabilities once the issuer is known. RFC 8707, published in 2020, lets the client request a token for one specific resource, so the result is audience-bound. RFC 9728, published in April 2025, fills the missing step between them. It lets the resource advertise which authorization servers are valid and how tokens must be presented. The same metadata format also exposes modern sender-constraining and fine-grained authorization hints, including DPoP, mutual TLS-bound tokens, and supported authorization details types. That is why RFC 9728 already matters beyond classic APIs. It is a foundational piece for generic OAuth clients, API gateways, and AI tool transport such as MCP authorization. The durable pattern to remember is resource metadata first, authorization server metadata second, resource-bound token request third. Once those 3 layers are present, a client can discover and use a new protected resource with far less hard-coded vendor knowledge. All primary sources cited in today's guide are listed on screen. The description below includes direct links to RFC 9728 and the adjacent OAuth specifications it depends on. If this helped you connect resource metadata, authorization server discovery, and audience-restricted tokens into one mental model, subscribe to Identity Expert for more protocol deep dives. Thanks for watching. If there is a standards gap, OAuth profile, or IAM protocol you want covered next, leave it in the comments. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an Identity Expert deep dive.